Hello everyone. In this session, we will cover the tab panels. We will address what exactly tab panels are. We will go over how we can create tab panels on the screen in the Onfinity framework. The session will include an overview of the tab panel, examining how the tab panels are created, the code that we have to write to create a tab panel, and the basic or standard functions that the framework provides for a tab panel to be executed. We will understand where to link the tab panel with the screen, and we will also understand how to do the binding of a tab panel with a particular tab or another element. Tab panels are areas on the screen. You can align the tab panels on the right side or at the bottom of your screen. Within these tab panels, you can write code to display specific fields or data. This data can be based on the consolidation of data already on the screen, or it can be fetched from other tables as well, allowing for custom logic to be applied. How you display the tab panel on the screen or tab depends on your specific requirements. When you click on a particular record, you can display data on the tab panel based on the record ID. As the user navigates through the records, the tab panel data will update based on the logic written for the record ID. To link the tab panel to the screen, you will need to go to the menu or configuration, and then navigate to screen configuration from the menu. In the screen configuration, search for the specific screen where you intend to link the tab panel. The next step is to navigate to the particular tab where the tab panel is needed. A screen, as you may already know, can contain multiple tabs. Where the tab panel is required on a particular tab depends on the user's requirements or the desired functionality. Next, go to the Tab Panel tab. Within the tab, there is a child tab specifically for tab panels. You then need to create a new record. Within the Tab Panel tab, you will need to enter details such as the name of the tab panel, the class name, and you can define the icon path and the alignment of the tab panel for this specific screen and tab. If needed, you can enter the details for the tab panel translation to support the culture of the tab panel. This screen configuration can be seen on the slide. This screen is an example of a sales order. On this screen, there is a tab, and on that tab panel, we have defined the name of the tab panel and the class name. The class will be executed when we click on the tab panel in the right-hand side action panel or in the tab panel. The icon path is shown here, and you can define the path of the icon, which will be displayed here for the specific tab panel. You can have multiple tab panels associated with a single tab. These are displayed in a specific sequence. The default sequence is 10. When you create a new tab panel, it will automatically increment by 10. The sequence is up to you to define. You can also mark a tab panel as the default, indicating that it should be the one displayed initially. By default, when you open a tab, the designated default tab panel will be displayed. You can also define the tab panel alignment, either on the right side of the tab or at the bottom of the screen. An example of this can be seen on the demo sales order screen, which contains two tabs, Order and Order Line. These are the fields, and the tab panel can be displayed in this section. The icon of the tab panel that I have defined is visible. On the right-hand side, you can see the Order tab panel, where I have displayed fields directly from the UI. In the Line tab, I am displaying the products created. I am showing a summary of those products, specifically which ones are selected for this tab panel. This is a basic example of a tab panel, and you can customize it based on your requirements and the functionality needed. This is static information. You can create your own controls here, and if you want to take specific actions from the tab panel, that is also achievable. The basic requirements for creating and executing a tab panel against a tab are as follows. First, as we are following the module level approach, a module management entry with the prefix is required, similar to other coding components like job callouts, M classes, and X classes. This entry is needed in the module management on your development system. Second, if an icon other than the default icon is desired, and you do not provide one as we saw in the last slide, the default icon will be used. However, if you need to add your own icon for the tab panel, you must deliver it via a module. Therefore, in the Modules Images folder, the icon should have the .ico prefix. That is the basic requirement for a tab panel. This is how you can configure a tab panel onto your stream. Next, we will understand the technical aspects of creating a tab panel, including how to write a JavaScript class for the tab panel, how to fetch the data, and what basic functions the Onfinity framework provides for creating tab panels. Let us understand how tab panels can be written using JavaScript. As we have previously understood, we have 3 projects in the part method session. Within this, we have the Vienna Advantage project, where we have defined areas following the module level approach. We have VA001 as our module prefix. In the scripts folder, we have the JavaScript classes, which are all the JavaScript classes for the pages. Additionally, for the tab panels, we have style sheets in the contents folder. Now, in the scripts in the app section, there is orderpanel.js. We will go through the standard functions that the framework provides for tab panels. We will also understand what else is required in the case of tab panels. In this order panel class, we begin with the namespace initialization using VA001, which is our module prefix. We assign this to window.v001. If this namespace is available in the DOM, it will retrieve the data or this JavaScript class from the DOM for that namespace. Otherwise, a new namespace will be created in the window object. We then have a self-invoking wrapper function with a defined name function. We define the class order panel here, and within the order panel, we define it with a namespace.orderPanel, assigning it to our class name. Once we have written this class, this tab panel class in the script section, we must define all our JavaScript classes in the SRC folder, as we have configured Webpack for ourselves. As you can see in the SRC folder, we have this module prefix VA001 and this js.js file. If I navigate to this, we have this import and /apps this folder. And if I lock my Solution Explorer and import this / and this apps folder, then inside the app folder, I will find the orderpanel.js class. Those classes written in jQuery or JavaScript must be defined in this SRC folder to be included in our final package that we create for our module package. Similarly, I have also written some CSS for my order panel. If I go back to my orderpanel.css, which is my style sheet in this contents folder, I find a few classes written for my CSS for the tab panel. Similarly, we have this SRC folder here. All the style sheets created for your module must be included in this style.css class. As you can see, we have this import, and then we have this /orderpanel.css. This is the syntax that must be defined here for your module, for your CS, and for your script folder. Once you run your project, these classes will be visible in the DOM in the developer tool. Let's return to our panel class, this JS file, to begin understanding the functions provided by the framework and how this tab panel actually operates. For this tab panel, there are specific standard functions. A few standard functions are required in this tab panel class. The first function that should be present is the start panel, which is provided by the framework. This function is called when a user clicks on a specific tab where the tab panel is linked. In this start panel function, the framework provides us with 2 parameters. The first is the window number, which is a number assigned to each screen or page whenever a user opens a specific page or screen from the menu section. The second is the current tab object, representing the tab from which this tab panel is opened. Within this tab panel, we have local variables where we assign the values passed as parameters to our local variables in this order panel. As you can see, the window number is initialized with 0, and the current tab is initialized with null. Whenever this function is called by the framework, these variables are assigned to the window number and the current tab. Then, there is an init function which is called. In the init function, we initialize our design. We will understand this init function later. As I mentioned, the Start panel is called whenever a specific tab is clicked from the screen where this tab panel is linked. The next function that must be present is Refresh Panel Data. This Refresh Panel Data function is called every time we navigate through the records on a specific tab where this tab panel is linked. In the Refresh Panel Data function, there are two parameters. The first is the record ID, and the selected row record ID is the primary key of the record we are currently viewing on the tab panel. The selected row provides all the details and values for the selected record or the record we are currently viewing. Again, these parameters are assigned to local variables, as they may be needed later when we are designing the tab panel. Then, the update function is called, where the record ID is passed. Through this record ID, we can retrieve certain values or fetch specific data from the server side to display on the tab panel. The update function will be called whenever the refresh panel data function is called from the tab panel, either when we are navigating or when we are changing any value on the record. Additionally, there is a size change function that is called when the tab is resized. This ensures that the width of the tab panel is adjusted accordingly. Finally, the dispose function should be present to dispose of all the components and controls from the tab panel whenever it is closed. These are the standard functions that are called by the framework, and that should be present in the tab panel class whenever you are writing one. We will now run this project and observe how these tab panel functions are called, before proceeding further with the design of our tab panel. I will run the project and observe how these functions are called in the developer console. I will first log in with the system credentials to demonstrate where the tab panel is linked on the screen. We were working on the demo sales order screen, so I will show you where we have linked the tab panel on the tab. We are now logged in with the system administrator role. In the screen configuration, we will navigate to a screen that has the prefix VA001, which we are working on. I will search with my prefix to find the demo sales order screen. Then I will navigate to the tab. The screen has two tabs, Order and Order Line. I have linked the tab panel to the tab panel on the order header. If I navigate to the tab panel, we can see that we have named our tab panel as the Order tab panel, and we have provided the class name as VA001.OrderPanel. This is the class name with our prefix, VA001.OrderPanel. The sequence determines the alignment of the tab panel, as there can be multiple tab panels against a tab. This sequence provides the alignment of the tab panel in this section, and the tab panels are displayed based on this sequence. The icon path specifies the location of the icon for the tab panel, which will be displayed here. When a tab panel is linked with a specific tab, we can mark a particular tab panel as the default. If there are multiple tab panels, the default tab panel will open automatically. We can also provide extra information, although this is optional. Finally, there is the tab panel alignment. As I mentioned earlier, this tab panel can be aligned either on the right side of the screen or at the bottom of the screen. It is up to the developer designing the tab panel to decide where they want to display it. This is how the tab panel should be linked with a specific tab. Now I will log out and log in with my tenant credentials to see how this tab panel will display on the tab. To see how those functions are called when we open a particular screen, I will open the developer console. We will see how those classes, the class and the AutoPanel class, are called from here. In the console section, within the sources, I have the name of our module that we defined in package.json or package.config. Here, we have our class, which is OrderPanel. I have applied a breakpoint in the Start panel. This is the class that we have written, and we have placed a breakpoint in the Start panel and the Refresh panel data function. Let's open our screen, which is the demo sales order. If I toggle this and fetch all the records, I can see 3 records here. As you can see, our functions are not yet called because I have not clicked on the tab panel. This is the icon that I placed on our tab panel in the tab panel image path. Now, if I click here, the framework has called our start panel function of the tab panel, which provides us with the window number and the current tab object. When I go to the init function, the design is initialized along with some other variables. If I run this again, the refresh panel data function is called, providing us with the record ID of the current record and the selected row object. From the selected row object, we can retrieve all the values of all the columns and fields available on the UI. Again, if we click on the update function, we will see the logic we have written for what we want to display on the UI. If I minimize this, you can see the details that we are getting on this tab panel. When I navigate through other records, I am currently on the second record, which has the record ID 100002. If I navigate to another record, the start panel function is not called because our panel is already opened. However, the refresh panel data function will be called because we are navigating to another record. Now, we are receiving the record ID of the other record to which we are navigating, and based on this, it will display the data from that record. This is how the tab panel works, and how the standard functions operate. Let's now understand how this tab panel is designed, how we can fetch values on this tab, and how we can design it. If we look at this tab panel, we have fields such as document number, the location of this record, the business partner, date ordered, grand total, and the product information. When we navigate to another record, this information changes based on the record that I am selecting. If we return to this record, the information such as the document number, location, business partner, and date ordered can be found on my header tab. The grand total and the products are on the line. As I have two lines, I can see the product information based on these two lines. If we examine another record, we have 4 products listed. If we go to the order line, we can see those 4 products listed, which is why they are being displayed. Let us move to the code section to observe how the information is presented on the user interface. We will begin by collapsing these tab groups. On the Start panel, the init function is executed. Looking at the Order panel section, specifically within this tab panel, we can examine the code structure. Several variables have been initialized. Additionally, the labels controls, declared earlier, are present here. Next, a div is declared as a root, and it's appended to the tab panel section, which will be provided to the framework. The tab panel will be displayed here. In this step of the init function, the design is initialized with the HTML code, which is then appended to the root. This root will be returned to the framework to be displayed within the tab panel section. The design of the tab panel is the developer's responsibility. They have the option to incorporate labels, various controls, text boxes, and buttons. Click events can also be implemented for these controls. All controls are accessible to the developer creating the tab panel. In this specific instance, labels and spans were defined to display simple text for reference purposes. In this section, HTML has been designed, where a div has been defined. Spans are being added, and within the div and span, labels such as document number are being displayed. The label control is used to retrieve the value from the record. Similarly, there are additional divs for location and business partner. These values have been passed as static values, functioning as fixed text. However, these values should ultimately be sourced from the message screen. Currently, these values are passed as fixed values for example scenarios. Then, this HTML is added to the root. Specifically, $root.append adds the design intended for display on the user interface. Subsequently, these label controls are being fetched to display the values corresponding to the fixed text, such as document number, location, and business partner. These controls are being fetched to assign them values. The values are retrieved from the root, specifically from the tab panel that was just designed. When the Start panel is called, the init function is executed. This initializes the design to be displayed on the tab panel. Subsequently, the refresh panel data function is called, which then calls the update function. The update function retrieves the record ID of the current record. These values are being fetched from the current window context. The document number, present on the screen, can be retrieved from the selected row. Currently, it's being fetched from the window text. Other fields fetched from the selected row will also be observed. The document number is being retrieved, which means knowing the names of the columns available in the table or tab is necessary. The document number is fetched and assigned to the document number label. The next column is column name, specifically B partner location ID, from which the customer's location or the business partner's location on the tab is being retrieved. From this field value within the selected row, the name of the column must be passed in lowercase. This will retrieve the value of that business partner location ID. On the user interface, the text of that foreign key is displayed. This is essentially the foreign key reference to another table. The ID, not the text, will be saved in the backend. Therefore, the ID of the B partner location ID column will be obtained. In the field value, there are standard functions provided by the framework to check the display type of the control. If the type is lookup, as in the case of lookup or the location, the field value is obtained. Using the function this .currentTab.getField, where the column name can be passed, .lookup.getDisplay, the display text of that particular field for the foreign key value will be returned. This demonstrates how to obtain the text of the control for foreign key fields on that tab. Similarly, the field value has already been initialized and set to null. Another column to be fetched is B partner ID, which is also a foreign key column. The field value for that is being fetched again, which will again provide the ID for the business partner. A check is performed to determine if the column is of the lookup type. If it is, and the field value is not null, the text for that business partner is fetched. Using this .currentTab.getField and passing the column name .lookup.getDisplay, the display value of the business partner will be returned. This value is then being set into the business partner label. The next field is date order, which is a date field on the demo sales order screen. A check can be performed to determine if that field is of the date type. The framework provides the function vis.display type is date. This will verify whether the field is of the date type. The display value for the field, date order, has been fetched, and the displayed value of the data being retrieved from the user interface can be changed or displayed. The display can be customized according to the desired format. The value has been fetched and is being displayed in the date format of Thursday, the 23rd of October, 2025. The implementation in the developer console will be observed. The next column is the grand total. This value is not a reference, but a numeric value on the order header of the demo sales order. The field value is being fetched from this column name and set into the amount field in this label. No formatting has been applied, so it will simply display the value as 7,000 or 10,000. The product information is being fetched from the line levels, using the framework function vis.dataContext.getJS on record. This function can be used, or AJAX calls can be used to fetch the data from the server side. The method of retrieving and displaying the information on the user interface is a matter of choice. This function will be addressed later. The other details being fetched and how they are being displayed on the user interface will be observed. The project will be executed to examine how the tab panel is displaying the values on the right-hand side of the order panel. I will log in using the tenant credentials, ID as admin. The demo sales order screen will be opened, along with the console. A breakpoint has already been applied, and another breakpoint will be applied to the update function as well. Upon toggling and clicking on this tab panel, the Start Panel function is called. The breakpoints will be removed. As can be seen, the Update function is being called, and the parameter being passed is Record ID. This will provide the record ID, or the primary key, of the current record. The value of the document number is being fetched, which corresponds to a specific value. This document number is then set into the control. Again, the column name is CB partner location ID, and the field value of this CB partner location ID is being retrieved. As mentioned, the ID of the foreign key will be obtained, specifically 1006524. This will provide the record ID or the foreign key ID. This ID will not be displayed to the user because the user won't understand the location. As can be seen, SkyCorp or the location is displayed instead of displaying the ID. To display the text, these functions are available. If the field value is debugged further, it can be seen that this field value is obtained and set into the location field. The next field is B partner ID, which corresponds to SkyCorp, the customer. As can be seen, the ID 1006740 is being obtained, but the intention is to display the text SkyCorp. Upon further debugging, the text SkyCorp is obtained as the field value. These values are being fetched in this manner. The next column is the date ordered. If this value is fetched, this field value is obtained with a universal date time. The intention is to format and display this value on the tab panel in a different format. The formatting has been applied to achieve this. The way the date format is displayed on the tab panel is a matter of choice. Then, set this value there. Another column is the grand total. The value, 41,785, is being obtained, but there are no decimal separators. No separators or formatting have been set, which is why the same text, 41,785, is being displayed. If some formatting is desired, it can be applied to display the information on the tab panel according to specific requirements. The product information will also be examined. I will go back to the code. To fetch data from the server side for displaying line information on a tab panel, I have used the framework standard function vis.dataContext.getJSONRecord. In this, the URL is being passed as the first parameter, which includes the area, controller name, and the name of the function to be called. The second parameter is the record ID, against which the details of the line, or product information from the lines, are to be fetched. Once that detail is fetched, it is being set in this LBL product. As mentioned, AJAX calls can also be used. The choice between using the AJAX functionality or this framework standard function is a matter of preference. This framework standard function has been used. The controller is VA001, the area, and the product is the controller. Within the controller, the getLineProducts function is available, and it is passed as a parameter obtained from the context. It can also be obtained from the selected rows. It's up to the user. This is the primary key of the current record. In this getJSONRecord function, provided by the framework, this parameter should always be a string and named fields. The detail of the parameter value will be fetched based on this name. The order model, getLineProducts, has been written from where this value is being fetched. The context and the primary key, which has been fetched from the parameter, are being passed. A query has been written to fetch these values. The M-class logic can also be used to fetch these values. The names of the products from the line against this order, the primary key which is passed from the parameter, are being fetched from a query. On the order line, there is the product. That is why an inner join has been applied to the product to fetch the value of the search key and the name of the product against this order ID. The logic for what to display on the tab panel and how to fetch the information is a matter of choice. That information is then returned to the JavaScript code via controllers and displayed on the user interface. In this instance, the value _name is being displayed as a comma-separated string. This logic has been written to append a string and return it to the JavaScript code. Again, The logic for how to write the logic and simplify the data to be displayed to the user is a matter of choice. If the project is run again, let us observe how these product details are displayed on the line. I will log in with the tenant credentials that have access to the demo sales order screen. The demo sales order screen will be accessed. In the tab panel, the search key _name is being displayed. On the order line, there are 4 lines. If 2 lines are deleted, only Netcom and Sarian, 2 product lines, will remain. Upon navigating to the order, it can be seen that these 2 values are displayed, where the product search key _name is being shown. To only see the name in this tab panel for the product, the query will be slightly modified. The intention is to only display the name. The name is being fetched into this product details. The build will be executed, and after it succeeds, it will be run. I will log in with the tenant credentials. Upon navigating to the demo sales order screen and toggling this record, only the names of the products are being displayed. There are 2 names, Sarian and Netcom. If one more line is added, for example, RJ45 connectors, and a quantity of 5 is entered and saved, there are now 3 lines on the order line, Sarian, RJ45, and Netcom. Upon returning to the order, the product information is displayed. It is not necessary to navigate to the order line to see the products. Other details from the order line can also be fetched and displayed, such as the line total within brackets. The logic for how to write the logic and display it to the user is a matter of choice. This is how a tab panel is written in the Onfinity framework. Multiple tab panels can be used, and all the tab panels will be displayed, based on the design structure of a screen and the need for tab panels, or if the requirement specifies the presence of tab panels, those tab panels can be written in this manner. That concludes this session. Thank you for attending.